You were sold a dream. And it almost cost you everything. Not your money, not your time. Something worse. It cost you your belief that financial freedom was even possible for you. And if you're watching this right now, there's a good chance you already know exactly what I'm talking about. You've probably seen the videos, the thumbnails, the promises, passive income while you sleep, make money doing nothing, build wealth on autopilot, and something inside you said maybe this time it's real, maybe this is the one. So you tried, and then you tried again. And somewhere in that process, quietly, without anyone noticing, a little piece of your hope died. I need you to hear me say this clearly. That was not your fault. Here's something most people teaching passive income will never admit to you. The version of passive income being sold to beginners online right now is one of the most sophisticated financial myths ever created. And the reason it keeps you stuck isn't because you're not smart enough or not motivated enough. It's because the myth is designed to feel true while slowly draining both your confidence and your resources. Let me walk you through exactly what's happening, why it's happening, and what actually works. Because by the end of this video, you are going to see this entire landscape completely differently. Let's start with the pain. The real pain. Not the surface-level frustration, but the stuff you don't say out loud. You're working hard. Every single day you go through the motions of a life that doesn't quite feel like yours. The alarm goes off too early. The commute or the desk or the screen in front of you becomes a kind of cage you're not supposed to call a cage. You watch the money come in and then leave almost immediately. Rent, bills, groceries, subscriptions. And at the end of the month, after all of that, what's left is not enough to build anything real, not enough to feel secure, not enough to breathe. And then someone online shows you a screenshot, a dashboard, numbers that look like what you make in a month but presented as what they made while sleeping. And something shifts in you. Not greed, not laziness, something desperate and deeply human, the hope that maybe there is another way. So you try the affiliate links, you set up the digital product, you post on the blog, you build the course, and weeks pass, then months, and the income is not passive, it is non-existent, or it's $11, or it's inconsistent and unpredictable and barely covers the cost of the tools you bought to make it work. This is where the myth does its real damage. Because now you're not just financially frustrated, you're questioning yourself. You start thinking maybe passive income works for other people but not for me. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm just not the type of person this is meant for. That thought is the most expensive lie the passive income myth ever told you. Here is what's actually true, and it changes everything. Real wealth, the kind that actually creates freedom, has never been built on passive income at the beginning. Every single person you admire financially, every person with real and sustainable cash flow, went through an active phase first. A building phase, a phase where they were learning, executing, failing, adjusting, and building real skills before any money started moving on its own. People who study how wealth is actually created versus how it's marketed have found something that the passive income industry spends enormous resources trying to hide. The average person selling you passive income spent years doing intensive, active, strategic work before any of it became passive. The automation came later, the leverage came later, the scaling came later. The beginning looked nothing like the highlight reel they're showing you now, and this is why beginners fail at such staggering rates. Not because passive income is impossible, but because they're being handed the destination without any map for how to actually get there. Now let me tell you something that the most financially free people in the world understand that most beginners never figure out. There are really only two phases to building real income. Phase 1 is where you trade effort for skill, and Phase 2 is where you trade skill for systems. Most people online are trying to skip directly to Phase 2, and it is like trying to drive a car without knowing how to turn the key. This is also why there's such a massive gap between people who talk about passive income and people who actually have it. The talkers sold you the Phase 2 lifestyle while hiding the Phase 1 work, and the result is an entire generation of beginners spinning their wheels, burning through hours and energy, and sometimes real money, chasing something that was never going to work the way it was presented. Now I want to be honest with you about something important. If you came here looking for a shortcut, this video is probably going to disappoint you. What I'm going to share with you instead is something far more valuable than a shortcut. I'm going to show you the actual framework that creates real income over time, and if you're someone who is actually serious, not just curious, but genuinely ready to change your financial situation, then there is a program linked in the description below this video. That program goes significantly deeper than anything I can cover here, and the people inside it are building real trackable results. But I'll come back to that. Right now let's keep going, because what comes next is where this gets genuinely interesting. Here is the pattern interrupt that most people never see coming. Passive income is real, but it is the result of active skill, not the replacement for it. And the moment you internalize that, everything changes. Because instead of asking, how do I make money without doing anything, you start asking a completely different question. You start asking, What skill, when built correctly, creates compounding returns over time? And that question opens an entirely different door. Think about it this way. Imagine two people start at exactly the same point. Same resources, same starting knowledge, same amount of time available. Person 1 spends 6 months chasing passive income shortcuts. Clicking, posting, setting up funnels that don't convert, buying courses that teach theory without application, and ending up exactly where they started, except now they're tired and skeptical. Person 2 spends those same 6 months building one specific high-value skill. They get uncomfortable, they fail, they adjust, they get better, they start delivering real value to real people or real markets. And at the end of those 6 months, that person has something person 1 doesn't. Momentum, evidence, confidence, and the foundation upon which an actual income system can be built. The difference between those two outcomes is not intelligence. It's not luck. It's not access to some secret information only available to a chosen few. The difference is understanding which phase they're actually in and what that phase actually requires. Now here's where I want to get specific about something because I think it matters deeply. The reason this myth hits beginners so hard is not just financial, it's emotional. When you spend months trying to make something work and it doesn't, you don't just lose money or time, you lose identity. You start to wonder if maybe you're just not built for this. Maybe financial freedom is for people who are smarter or luckier, or who started earlier, or who had better connections, or who grew up in different circumstances. If that thought has ever crossed your mind, I want you to stop for a second and really absorb this. Some of the most successful people building real income right now started with less than you. Less time, less money, less knowledge, less confidence. What they had was clarity. They understood what phase they were in, they understood what actions that phase required, and they stayed consistent with those actions long enough for the results to appear. Clarity is not a personality trait you're born with. It's a product of the right information applied to the right strategy at the right time. And this is exactly what separates people who break through from people who keep circling the same frustrating loop. Let me paint you a picture of what the other side looks like. Because if you've been living inside the loop, you might have actually forgotten what you're working toward. Imagine waking up without the alarm. Not because you're lazy, because you're free. Imagine looking at your phone in the morning and seeing numbers that moved while you were resting. Real numbers. Numbers that represent real value you created. Real skills you built. Real systems you put in place after actually understanding how to build them correctly. Imagine the feeling of paying a bill and not feeling that quiet dread afterward. Imagine the conversations you'd have differently. The decisions you'd make differently. The version of yourself that would show up in every room when money is no longer the quiet anxiety sitting behind every other thought. That is not a fantasy. That is the outcome of the right phase, executed with the right strategy, over a realistic and committed period of time. And it is absolutely available to you. But it requires something that shortcuts never ask of you. It requires honesty. Specifically honesty about where you currently are and what that position actually demands from you right now. If you're a beginner, your job is not to automate income. Your job is to build the skill that eventually gets automated. And there is a very specific, very learnable way to do that. Which brings me to the last thing I want to say to you, and I want you to take this seriously. Most people who watch a video like this will nod along, feel inspired for about 40 minutes, and then go back to doing exactly what they were doing before. They'll bookmark it. They'll think about it. And then the next shiny passive income promise will show up in their feed, and the cycle will start again. Don't be that person. The program linked in the description below this video exists for one reason. To collapse the timeline between where you are right now and where you actually want to be. It doesn't promise you passive income on day one. It gives you something worth more than that promise. It gives you the actual roadmap. The real methodology. The step-by-step structure that takes you through phase 1 with precision and moves you into phase 2 with evidence and momentum behind you. The people who are taking action on this are not the ones waiting for the perfect moment. Because the perfect moment does not come. It is created. And the longer you wait, the longer the loop continues. If you're ready to actually break the pattern, the link is below. Everything you need is there. The only question left is whether today is the day you decide to stop circling and start moving.